Breaking news in Michigan. For those of you that have been following along, our Attorney General Dana Nessel gave an opinion on Wednesday stating that the Michigan House of Representatives was not legally acting and was acting unconstitutionally by pausing work projects within our Appropriations Department. We're going to break that down. Number one, the repercussions of her opinion have led the Michigan House of Representatives, in which I serve, to file a lawsuit and also a restraining order that prevents these departments from spending this money. Because what happens when Dana Nessel gives an opinion, it is actually telling the departments that she believes that they are legally allowed to continue to give this money to these work projects that the House Appropriations Committee deemed to be put on pause. This is skirting around the legislature again. The administration does not have the authority to control the spending. The spending and the purse strings starts, stays, and stops in the legislature, not in the administration.
Michigan's got a problem, and it's not the one most people think. Voters across the state bought into promises of change, disruption, draining the swamp. Now, they're watching budget battles, constitutional crises, and the very systems they thought they were fixing turn against them. You can't burn down the system and expect it to save you. Michigan became a battleground for a reason. Now it's ground zero for what happens when campaign promises meet reality. Welcome back to Mind Mirror. Let's break it down.
So again, today, the Michigan House of Representatives has filed a lawsuit against these departments. This includes Dana Nessel, Jocelyn Benson, the Michigan DNR, Leo, every single department that feels that they're going to continue this spending spree when the House has told them, no, they must pause this. This is skirting around the transparency that we have put into place as the Michigan House of Representatives. We are historically the first chamber that has ever followed through on our promises and said, we are cutting spending. We are going to push for truth and transparency. We are going to make sure that your tax dollars are being spent wisely, not fraudulently, and not abusively.
Here's the Michigan situation in plain English. The legislature passed a budget, signed it into law, then months later decided to freeze $645 million of it. That's not how appropriations work. Once it's law, you can't just unilaterally pause spending without proper procedure. The Attorney General called it unconstitutional, so the House sued to force compliance. Both sides are claiming they're defending democracy. But really, this is gridlock masquerading as principle. If you wanted fiscal responsibility, you fight that battle during the budget process, not after, when you realize you don't have the votes. This isn't about transparency. It's about control. And the citizens, they're caught in the middle while politicians play constitutional chicken.
By now you've heard about the $645 million in cuts the Michigan House Republicans made unilaterally last week. There is a protest tomorrow, Tuesday, the 16th of December in Lansing at noon. If you'd like to join a wide coalition of nonprofits and other groups who are saying you better get this money back in a supplemental in early next year and really show how upset we are about this. So show up in Lansing at the Capitol tomorrow, Tuesday, December 16th at noon, and I will see you there.
Happy New Year! We're looking forward to 2026 and to making sure that voters like you have the information that you need to make your voices heard. As always, if you have any questions about registration or voting, we're here to help.
Quick update to getting the hell out of this country. Talked to the immigration lawyer. I'm good to go pretty much. Just need a little bit of extra money in my savings account. Not too much. Have to take the kids and I to DC or Houston for the consulate and get a bank account and some property there. And then we're good to go. Other than figuring out how to convince my ex to either come with or take the kids to give me sole custody of the kids.
Someone's consulting immigration lawyers about leaving the country with their kids. That's not hyperbole. That's genuine fear. Whether it's justified or not, the fact that people are having these conversations tells you everything about the temperature right now. Here's my take. Fear makes terrible decisions, but so does denial. If you're this anxious, get specific. What exactly are you afraid of? Because vague dread leads to panic moves. And uprooting your family to another country? That's trading one set of problems for another. Every system has flaws. Running away rarely solves anything. Running towards something is different, but make sure you know what that something actually is.
I need you to listen to me. There are a lot of big creators on here who are trying to downplay the Lake Michigan thing. And I went down a bit of a rabbit hole over the last couple of days regarding that. And one thing I do want to say is, and while I like this creator and I appreciate that they deliver facts most of the time, I don't agree with the recent post that they made about this subject. Because they're like, oh, I don't want to sensationalize it, so it's not corroborated, it's not verified, it's not this, it's not that. Well, guess what? I found things to corroborate it. So stay tuned, because I will be telling you exactly why you should pay attention to that particular event and exactly why we should take it very seriously. I'm not saying we should sensationalize anything. We damn well should take this seriously, because there's more than just that testimony.
Big creators are downplaying this, but I found evidence. Okay, show it. That's how credibility works in 2025. You can't just say, stay tuned for the truth, and expect people to trust you. Receipts, or it didn't happen. Look, conspiracy theories spread because they're emotionally satisfying. They make you feel like you're part of something bigger, like you know secrets others don't. But real threats don't need hype. They need documentation, verification, actionable intel. So if there's genuinely something happening at Lake Michigan that people should worry about, present the evidence clearly. Otherwise, this is just engagement farming disguised as truth-telling.
Well, folks, President Trump has secured another major win for Michigan. I just wrapped up an incredible tour of the Palisades nuclear facility. Let me tell you, this place is buzzing with the future of American energy dominance. President Trump secured a major federal investment to make us one of the first states to roll out small modular nuclear reactors right here. Another 600 megawatts coming to Southwest Michigan, right here at Palisades. This isn't just about power. This investment will bring jobs, will help make energy cheaper, more reliable for Michigan's hardworking families. Well, President Trump is putting America first, revitalizing our nuclear industry, and ensuring Michigan leads the way. As your next governor, I'll work with President Trump to keep the wins coming for our state and to fight to make sure that everyone can finally make it in Michigan again with good jobs, lower energy costs, and better opportunities for Michigan workers. Let's get it done.
Nuclear energy investment in Michigan, small modular reactors, 600 megawatts, jobs, lower costs. This is actually good news, and it's bipartisan. Small modular reactors are legitimately promising, safer, more efficient, scalable. But let's be real. This didn't just happen overnight because of one administration. Federal nuclear investment has been building for years across multiple governments. So celebrate the jobs, celebrate the infrastructure, but don't pretend this is some unprecedented miracle. Nuclear isn't a magic solution. It's one piece of a complex energy puzzle. And if we're serious about emissions and grid stability, we need honest conversations about what it can and can't do.
So I have a question for Americans. To those asking people overseas for help with regards to what's happening in the States right now with the Trump regime. And before I ask that question, hi, I'm Danny, I'm from Australia. And I've been posting about providing an outsider's perspective to Americans on what's happening in the States. I decided to do that because I'd see a lot of Americans on TikTok saying, where is the international community? What do other people think? What are you seeing? It's not getting through. And I've been so lucky that I've been able to get through to some Americans and I've been getting some answers. And to those who've engaged with me, thank you very much for letting me know how you're going, letting me know your perspectives. It's been really, really informative to me. And I hope my view is helpful to you in some way. But let's go back to the original question. When Americans say, we need help, what help do you want? What do you want us to do? And I'm not asking that in some sort of obnoxious way. I genuinely am curious. What do you think we can do or should do for you? I know what I'm doing. I'm posting videos offering my perspective from an outsider's view as to what is happening so that you don't feel gaslit or going crazy, so that you can get a different kind of perspective about what's going on in your country from an outsider's view. I'm not American. I do not live there. This is just an outsider's perspective. But I don't want you to feel alone and gaslit and confused and crazy, because I know that authoritarian regimes are very, very effective at doing that to their populations. And while I have said previously, you're in an authoritarian regime, I think you are there, or what's most likely to be, you are very, very much on your way there. Your institutions are crumbling and executive power is far too strong. And you might feel, and many of you do feel, lost and isolated, like the rest of the world doesn't care what's happening to you and they're not going to come to help. It's not that the rest of the world doesn't care, it's that they're not going to come help. This is something that Americans need to deal with. You made this. A lot of you did not vote for this president, and that's fine, but you're in a democracy. This is the president that won those elections, and this is the president that's in power. And this is the president that very questionably will not surrender power. I'm highly suspicious that he would ever surrender power willingly.
An Australian creator just said what most of the world is thinking: no one's coming to save you. And she's absolutely right. International relationships aren't built on feelings. They're built on shared interests and strategic value. So when Americans ask, where's the international community? The answer is simple. You're not being invaded. You're not facing famine. You're dealing with the consequences of your own democratic choices. That sucks for the people who voted differently. But this is what democracy means: living with majority decisions even when they're catastrophically bad. What can other countries do? Exactly what she's doing. Bear witness, offer perspective, remind you that authoritarian backsliding is recognizable from outside, even when you're living in it. Beyond that, this is America's problem to solve.
Like, look what happened at January 6th. But this is an American issue. And you can have our love and sympathy and support, and we can talk to you about what's going on and how we see it, and we can try and encourage you and embolden you. We can't do it for you. We can't fix this issue for you. We can only be a friend to you. In the same way that a friend can't make another friend break up with their shitty boyfriend or deal with their drug or alcohol addiction or any other thing like that. In that same way, we can't make you be better. And also, this is where I really might lose some of you. I'm going to say something uncomfortable. A lot of Americans have cost the United States a lot of goodwill internationally. For a very long time, people in other countries, and particularly ally countries, have been dealing with a culture of hubris and American exceptionalism and an arrogance that is incredibly off-putting. Now, obviously, I can't speak for everyone outside the US, but this is just, again, my perspective. A little bit about how I feel, but also how I see a lot of other people feel. You guys behave like dicks, and you have a lot when it comes to the rest of the world.
You guys behave like dicks. Blunt, but not wrong. American exceptionalism is exhausting for everyone else. The assumption that every other country is desperate to move to the US. The shock when someone says, actually, we're good. The inability to imagine that other places might have better healthcare, education, or quality of life. I've watched Americans abroad genuinely ask if other countries have email, or internet, or democracy. And look, America has incredible things to offer: innovation, diversity, opportunity, but so do 50 other countries. The arrogance comes from conflating power with superiority. And that gap, that's where respect dies. Because when you spend decades telling everyone else how to live, launching questionable wars, destabilizing regions for economic gain, don't act shocked when they're not rushing to help when you need it. Loyalty has limits, especially when it's been one-sided.
This is just a tiny example, but I was traveling in Europe, and I made some friends with some Americans there, and they were really, really lovely people. And this was quite a long time ago. And they asked how they could reach out to me at home in Australia. And they asked me, do you have email in Australia? They thought that I came from a kind of country that didn't have email, and that America was so amazing that it was the only country in the world that had email. Americans have spent a lot of time talking to people overseas like we are a bunch of basically poor, degenerate losers, and our greatest dream in life would be to get a chance to move to the United States, which is simply untrue. Now, I love Americans. I've had, lots of American friends. There's a reason that I'm posting this stuff. It's because I genuinely care about what happens to you guys. I care about your Constitution as someone who's an idealist and a philosopher of sorts, and as someone who loves political science and law. I mean, that's why this stuff really, really matters to me, and I care what happens to you. I genuinely do. But the most you're going to get really from anyone overseas is, the most you'll get is, I'm so sorry this is happening to you, offering an outside perspective and encouraging you to, do whatever you need to do. Make your own decisions about how to deal with this issue. No one's coming to save you. Also, there's huge geopolitical and military reasons why, we wouldn't even do that in any sort of formal way. Our government wouldn't do that in any sort of formal way. That's, America is our ally. The US government is our ally. Australian and US governments are allies. We have substantial military assets, the US military assets in our country. Ally nations will act within their own best interests, even when the US is pushing them away and treating their allies with contempt. No one's coming for you. No one's coming to help you. You're going to have to deal with this yourself. And I'm sorry to say, I know a lot of you didn't vote this in, I know, but again, as a people in aggregate, you made this problem and you're going to have to fix it. And I say that as a friend. I say that as a friend who cares. It is worth reflecting as Americans how you have behaved to people from other countries, how you have been so arrogant about your exceptionalism, about what an amazing country you live in and how everyone must want to come live in America. That, oh my gosh, you're the dream. And above an interpersonal level where Americans have had a culture of hubris and arrogance and disrespect towards people in other countries, not all Americans, but a lot, enough to make it a interesting and unique problem that is only really seen as much from Americans. Your foreign policy. Your foreign policy has caused a lot of pain and harm across the world. And my country has followed you into it without question, with blind loyalty, in almost every single case. And that has cost us dearly, dearly.
Australia followed the US into Iraq and Afghanistan, lost soldiers, spent billions, supported the war on terror without question. The premise was WMDs, liberation, stability, all of it was wrong. And now, threats about taking Greenland from Denmark, another ally who sent troops to those same wars. This is what happens when a country prioritizes power over partnership. Your allies start wondering if loyalty goes both ways. Foreign policy isn't a game, it's a ledger. And when you've been writing checks you can't cash for decades, eventually people stop accepting them. The international community isn't indifferent because they don't care. They're indifferent because they've learned that American interests always come first, until suddenly they need something. And then it's all about shared values again. That's not how alliances work. That's extraction.
When 9/11 happened, I remember Australians were shocked. There was grief. I remember going to school that day because I was 11, 12 years old. And yeah, it was bizarre. And definitely at my school, everyone was just completely stunned. And we jumped into that war on terror. It was like, someone did that, let's go. We jumped into that war on terror and also the war in Iraq without question. And our military service people have suffered. They've also suffered. There was a lot of loss of life of US soldiers due to the war in Iraq and the war in Afghanistan. We've been there with you. And I'm a person that has family in the military. Look at Denmark. Look at what's happening with Greenland and what's Trump saying about Greenland. The Danes, Denmark is a very, very small country, and it also responded with absolute loyalty to the United States for the war on terror. On a per capita basis, on a scaled down basis, the Danes took heavy losses following the US into war. And now the US is talking about taking Greenland. Again, that's the regime, that's not you. I understand that that's the Trump administration doing that. But the cost of goodwill is not just what has happened under the Trump administration. It has been a long-standing culture of behavior by a lot of the American people, and it is our experience of the impacts of US foreign policy. I don't say this to upset you, I just say it to kind of deliver it to you straight. And frankly, me posting an outsider's perspective on these issues, which is critical of an authoritarian regime of a country as powerful as the United States, that is not without risk to me. I know that sounds dramatic and silly from Australia. Oh, you're in Australia, it doesn't matter. I cannot explain to you why necessarily, but I certainly know that by posting these things, I will never be allowed into the United States. And there are other risks associated with that. They're very minor compared to the ones that you face, but it's not, talking like this with you is not without risk to me as well. Sorry, this was long and ranty, but I really wanted to kind of explain why you have my love, you have my support. Let's talk about it. I want to encourage you. I want you to hear your stories. I want to be there for you, but I cannot do this for you, and no one else internationally is going to do it for you. Love you though, I do.
I was a Democrat my entire life, and I switched to Trump after the 2020 elections. Trump is, the man is just a comedian. He's funny. But he really, he cares about America. I've heard President Trump's speech so many times. I really liked one part that he said I'd never heard him say before. He was kind of happy that the 2020 election was rigged because he's got the Olympics coming twice.
And the World Cup, he said.
And the World Cup during his presidency. He's just fucking funny. That he makes me laugh. And I trust him.
There were no guns, so it wasn't an insurrection. Let me be clear. Coups don't require firearms. They require intent. A sitting president told supporters the election was stolen, directed them to the Capitol, and watched as they tried to stop electoral certification. That's not protest. That's attempting to overturn democracy through force. Were some people there peaceful? Yes. Confused? Sure. But others? They built gallows, chanted about executions, beat police officers, and saying only the violent ones should be jailed isn't some reasonable middle ground. That's just acknowledging basic reality. That's the floor, not the ceiling. You don't get credit for admitting that assaulting cops is bad. That's not principle. That's common sense. Catching up to you.
His critics, their main concern was the insurrection during January 6th. What do you think about that?
There were no guns. The insurrection with no guns. The insurrection with no terrorist attacks. Some cops got hit on with, sprayed and, those guys need to go to jail. The ones who attacked police officers.
You wouldn't agree with them being pardoned? The ones that committed violent offenses?
Physical violence? No.
So let me get this straight, and you know how much I hate that. The President of the United States wants to take Greenland because he doesn't want China or Russia getting it. They're not getting it. They haven't said they're going to get it. And more importantly, he doesn't want a neighbor like Russia or China to be that close to the U.S. border. Come with me. What grade do you think he got in geography? Do you think his dad took him out of school so he could learn how to just pretend to be right? Do you think he knows that Africa's a continent, not a country? Now, I'm only doing this because I'm a teacher at heart, right? And I feel like there's a lot of misinformation going around, and I think I have the thing to fix it. This is a map of the world. Now, before I get too deep into it, do we all understand that the world is a globe? I know some of you out there don't really think that, but please, can the tinfoil hat people go sit down for a second? The grown-ups are talking. Okay? This is a flattened version of a globe. The United States, Alaska belongs to you guys. You guys bought it in the late 1800s, right? Who'd you buy it from? Russia. That's on you. Stand by. Russia goes all the way over here. Are you with me so far? The United States, Greenland. By the way, sizes are bigger than they appear in real life. That is a stretch Greenland. It's actually much smaller. Maybe if people told Donald Trump that the map wasn't right and that's much smaller, he wouldn't want it so bad because to him, let's be honest, size matters. Can you see that little point right there, guys? United States, Russia. United States, Russia. 55 miles apart. Does somebody want to inform him? He's already 55 miles close to Russia. He's this close. Why? Because this is a globe. We just decided to draw it this way, right? But that end over there connects to this end over here. Maybe nobody's explained it to him. United States, Greenland. Want to know how far those two are apart? 1,500 miles. Does he know the United States owns Alaska? You know what I'm going to do? Because I'm a fan of peace, I'm going to send this globe to the White House so somebody, anybody, can show him how a globe actually works and how close he already is to Russia.
A geography lesson shouldn't be necessary for world leaders, but here we are. Alaska exists. The Bering Strait puts the U.S. 55 miles from Russia, closer than Greenland by about 1,450 miles. But somehow, the justification for wanting Greenland is keeping Russia and China away from American borders. This isn't strategy. This is someone playing Risk without reading the rules. And here's what this reveals. Decisions aren't based on geopolitics. They're based on vibes, on what sounds tough, on what plays well. Foreign policy has real consequences for real people. Treaties matter. Alliances matter. Geography matters. So yeah, maybe someone should send a globe to the White House. Better yet, maybe we should expect our leaders to already know where things are before they start threatening to annex them.
Real
Michigan
life.
voters,
that is a stretch.
budget
Greenland
battles,
is
people planning
actually
exits,
much smaller.
allies losing patience,
Maybe if
all
people
of it
told
adding
Donald
up to the
Trump
same
that the
lesson.
map
Promises
wasn't
don't
right,
match
and
reality.
that's
When
much
you elect
smaller, he
disruption,
wouldn't want
you
it so
get
bad because to
disruption.
him,
when you
let's be honest,
prioritize
size
loyalty over
matters.
competence,
Can you see
get
that little point right there,
incompetence. When
guys?
you ignore the warnings,
United
you
States,
end up exactly here.
Russia.
But it's not
United
too late. You can
States,
admit mistakes. Change
Russia.
your mind. Pay attention to policy
55
instead of personality.
miles
Ask
apart.
yourself, what do I actually want? Not what
Does somebody
feels
want to
good,
inform
not what
him?
wins arguments.
He's
What do
already
I actually want for my
55
future? Then act
miles
like it matters.
close
Drop a
to
comment.
Russia.
Hit that like.
He's this close.
Subscribe. We're just
Why?
getting started. Real
Because
quick,
this
by becoming
is
channel
a
member,
globe.
you're not
We just
supporting our
decided
work.
to
You're
draw
helping us
it this
amplify
way,
voices,
right?
fight
But that
misinformation,
end
and
over
keep
there
important
connects
conversations
to this
alive.
end over
Membership
here.
gives us the
Maybe
strength to
nobody's
keep producing
explained it to
content
him.
that matters.
United
Join today and
States,
stand with us in shaping a
Greenland.
better
Want to know how
future.
far those